Yeah, right. All right, so. How's that? Is that okay? There we go. Yeah. So Florida black bear, I'm going to go through this fairly quickly so that you're not here all day because it can get to be a long PowerPoint. So Florida black bears. The Florida black bear is the only bear that we have in the state of Florida. It is one of 16 subspecies of bears. This map shows you a little bit about where bears are throughout the state. So we did every few years this area is included in a study that happens like once every 10 years. It looks through the different populations in specific areas. So this map is the most up to date with 4,050 statewide. Our area is the central area where the red circle is. And if you take a look at what the map represents, it shows you different bear ranges. Now this is from 2019. The map is being updated, so that will be included when we have the most updated map. But if you look where the dark brown is, that's frequent. That's where we have plenty of bears moving around. The common, the lighter brown shade, that's where it's not uncommon to see a bear. The occasional, which is a lot of that center section in there where people are talking about trying to secure the corridor, those are some of the areas, and then up north where they're trying to really do a lot of securing of those places so that bears have a corridor to move up and down the state. And then the rare, and the rare is usually meaning we have female or males, but we don't know of any breeding pairs that we have in those areas. Bears are generalists. When you're talking about habitats, they're habitat generalists. So they can find food anywhere throughout the state. Initially, they were all over the state. Now they're in about 49% of the population where they used to be, thousands and thousands of years ago. Our area, the central area, our BMU is the Central Bear Management Unit. We have the largest population of bears with at least 1,200. Of course, that reaches up into Ocala and comes all the way down into Volusia, Seminole, Orange. And you can see that is obviously the largest area of frequent bear sightings and bear encounters. So this is going to show you, this is a pretty cool slide. It shows you the differences between ranges and territories. Bears are solitary animals unless it is time for breeding season or when moms have cubs. But the males will travel, and you'll see a slide on this coming up, but the males will travel up to 60 square miles. The females will usually go 10 to 12. Why would the females be less? Traveling with cubs. So they're much more careful around those areas. So the whole territory is the one large map, but their ranges do change in frequency. So a male bear, you guys are in Stanford, a male bear that's seen in Lake Mary, I may see in my home in Longwood, if it's a male, because they'll travel that Markham Woods Road corridor up and around. So people will say, I saw a bear, but I only see it once every 3 weeks. Well, it's probably because it's making its way through where it knows all the good trash is and all the good bird feeders and stuff are. People that feed cats, they find their way through all of those. So the females stick more 10 to 12 miles. So this picture was taken years ago, but we continue to use it because it's a really good photograph of the differences in bears. So people will call and say, during breeding season, we'll say, I have a mom and a cub in my front yard. And we'll look, and it's like actually a male and a female getting ready for breeding season. So the male is on the left, that's a 350-pound bear. When really, if you don't know much about the sizes of bears, you can see why that would be considered, or someone would think that's a female and a cub. That female is 150 pounds. So some of our yearling bears, and we'll talk about what a yearling is, but they're bears that are no longer cubs, but they're not adults yet either. So those yearling bears really can look like young cubs, or larger cubs. So our males, they start between 250 and 450 pounds. Over the years though, because as we have more development, we have more people moving into the area, we have more garbage issues, more people move in and don't know what to secure from bears. So our larger bears, our number of larger bears get bigger. So instead of like the 250 to 450, we have a lot of 500 and 600 pound bears that will be moving around. The largest bear in the state was 760 pounds. That bear came out of Apopka, was getting a lot of bird feeders and a lot of cat food and a lot of trash, and people just weren't calling it in and didn't know what to do. And he ended up being killed. He was injured and then was actually euthanized from injuries. So 62 square miles for our males. They are more risk-taking. That's why they also travel, they're solitary. They travel a lot on their own. Our females, 125 to 250. So when you think about 125 pounds, that's not really a very big bear. It looks, and that could be an adult female. Can be 125, 150 pounds. They will travel usually 10 to 12, up to 15 square miles. And they are more secretive and careful because they, every few years will have cubs with them. So bear breeding. Breeding season runs June, July, and into August. So we've just come out of that period of time. You can see this little cub in a den. Here our dens look a little bit different. They can be, in palms, say up in the palms, they'll just dig away right into there. They'll do a day bed, and it's usually in the middle of something or under a fallen log, something where once she has those cubs, if anything comes nearby, she can hear the brush breaking and she can move the cubs before they're found. So their bears are typically given the birthday of February 1st. They're born the last week of January, the first week of February, give or take a week. But across the country, that's typically the typical time for bear cubs being born. Bears have, this is one of, have an appropriate audience, I can talk about this. Bears have this awesome thing called delayed implantation. To me, I think it's one of the coolest things about bears. So when bears go through breeding season, they're not automatically pregnant. So they go through breeding season, the blastocysts just sort of float around in this animated suspension kind of thing inside her body, and they get ready to go into their fall eating frenzy, which is called hyperphagia. So she tries to put on as much weight as she possibly can in fall. If she doesn't put on enough weight to sustain herself and cubs, those eggs, those blastocysts don't implant and they float right out of her body and she's not pregnant. If she puts on a lot of weight, she'll have 1, 2, 3 cubs, depending on how much body fat she puts on. So that's really cool. It is a way that they can somewhat take care of their own population. However, when you start to increase the amount of foods that bears can get in our neighborhoods, that means bears are getting more food. So instead of seeing bears or sows, females with 1 cub or 2, now we're seeing more with 2 and 3, and now we have some with 4, which means they're getting really good food sources from someplace. Does that increase the bear population? Yes, but it also increases the number of bears that are hit and killed. So those numbers are continuing to go up every year as well. You'll see a slide on that. But more bears, yes, in neighborhoods, and yes, roaming around. That also means those bears that are used to being in neighborhoods, it's sort of like if you live in an area with deer, some of our areas in Sanford in particular and Lake Mary have deer that and people are feeding them, and deer just sort of walk in front of your car, and they just sort of stay there where, they don't dart. Like if you're hiking and you see a deer, they're darting away. Bears will do the same thing. They become more comfortable and don't know to move out of the way of cars and stuff because the feeding does change their natural behavior a little bit. So that ends up being more bears being killed by cars. Cubs, adorable. Adorable. 12 ounces at birth. They can have litters of up to 1 to 5. The average is 2 to 3. And if she has 2, they're generally a male and a female. Just to give you the 12 ounces, that's similar to the size of like a stick of butter or soda can, to give you the size of what they're like they're born. Ears and eyes are sealed shut, as you can see at the top. The green on the photo there is tattoo ink. When they're being, if you look on the bottom photo, on the side of the mouth, you'll see some green. When they're being, when a sow and cubs are being researched, they'll wear collars and they'll go in and handle the cubs quickly, and they will do lip tattoos inside so that they can follow them and know if they end up being handled again. So when bears come out of their winter time here for our winter, our bigger bears will start to move around a little bit. Our females with cubs, you won't usually see them moving around much until April, and that's just when they're big enough to actually be able to move around with her. So in the springtime, you'll see juveniles and adult bears, sub-adult bears, but you usually don't see the moms with cubs until about April. So right now, very busy with moms and cubs, getting ready to go into the fall. The cubs will stay in the perfect world. They will stay with mom for 1.5 years. So they're born in February, they're gonna stay with her that entire year and leave that next spring. Bears go through what's called family breakup. So when springtime comes around, she's had her cubs for a year and a half, life is great, and then all of a sudden she's like, okay, body tells her it's time to go back into estrus again, and she growls out. She doesn't growl, because bears don't growl, but she bites at them, she chases after them, she fights with them, she sends them on their way, which is very traumatic for a bear. If you think about it, they're like, life was great, and now mom's kicking me out, I don't know what happened. She will allow the females to sort of pass through her area and stick nearby, but the males, she does require them to go further away, because as bear physiology continues to go forward, bears will kill cubs so that the mom will be thrown back into estrus again earlier. So, diet. So bears, 73% of their diet is are plants. Right now, I've been up and down Markham Woods Road a lot recently, and into Sanford, we're starting to see acorns fall. That's their favorite. When we start to see the acorns coming, we know that bear activity is going to pick up. So they love saw palmetto berries, they love acorns, sable palms. Right now, just what I'm seeing in this area, and in talking with our area bear biologists, lots of the queen palm nuts, or the fruit dropping, and bears will eat those too. The insects, 22%, those are typically colonial type ants, termites. It's much easier for a bear to take its claws and strip open a log and eat those than it is to like try and chase down a deer that it might get 1 in 10 times. So it just goes more towards the insects. And then meat is 5%. Those are typically things that are dead or play dead. They will, however, go after chicken, they'll go after pigs, they'll go after goats, anything that's a livestock, considered a livestock animal. Sometimes it's because of the feed that's in there with them, and sometimes it is for a protein type hit. So avoidance. That's a bear up there, and you can't, I don't know if you can see in the back, that's a cat at the very bottom. So this is from north. 90% of the time, bears don't want to have anything to do with people, so they're going to avoid. That means they're running up a tree. If they're up a tree, they're scared or hiding. They're going to run. So if anyone ever tells you to climb a tree, that would be the wrong thing to do, because bears can climb trees very quickly. In fact, if you'll look at their he was hit by a car, by the way, that's how we have him. But if you look at his claws after, his claws go like this, and it's so that they can climb trees really well and dig through things. The grizzlies, the brown bears out west, their claws go up and out more, so their claws are very different. And grizzly, the brown bears up over in the west, they will go for salmon, they'll go for fish, so they do a lot more of and they will kill. They're more of a predatory type than the black bear. So this cat treated that bear twice. It was in a magazine, and the people were sitting on the front porch watching it. So dogs and bears are a totally different story. Dogs and bears do not get along at all. But it is very interesting that something like a cat can frighten a bear. There you go. Bears are very curious. A couple people have said something about them being curious already today. When you see a bear standing upright, that is not a sign of aggression. And people, will see a bear, oh my gosh, there's a bear there. It stands up and like, oh, it's going to attack me. That's not what that's about at all. A bear stands up, like they have great eyesight. It's about equal to humans. They have good hearing, but their sense of smell is much better than, it's 1,000 times better than a bloodhound. And if you take a look at, they're trying to get a smell. He's trying to see what's going on to make sure that it's not a threat to him. But that's not an aggressive pose. In fact, if he were to take off like that, he sort of would be waddling like a penguin. So they sort of would lose all cool points if they made a bear like sort of waddling along. So not an aggressive pose. The nice thing about this photo too is if you take a look at the chest, bears will sometimes have what's called a chest blaze. Some will just be solid black with no blazes. Some will have giant different colors. They can be white, they can be tan, cream colored, but that's just some populations of bears will have the blazes and some won't. But not an aggressive pose. So this one has, this is taken by a hunter in Minnesota. Nothing bad happens to the bear. But it will show you how bears live by their nose. So if a bear can smell from something, an odor at least a mile away. There is research being done that says it's farther. We know it's at least a mile away. So when you see what happens with this bear, you'll be able to tell, number one, he's probably been in this tree stand before. This is the hunter's boots at the top. And you can watch how he just sort of identifies the world.
Hey, what are you doing there? What are you doing there?
I mean, and that shows you just how a bear is sort of oblivious to what else is going on. It's sniffing what it wants to smell, and oops, now I need to go. And in the wild, it's that easy to scare a bear off. So bears they're very honest and open with their body language, you know, for the majority of the time. So bears they're defensive. Black bears are very rarely predatory per se. It can happen, but it's not their typical MO. So it's very similar to a rattlesnake. Like if a rattlesnake's gonna go after a mouse, it's silent. The mouse doesn't know it's there. If one of us walks up to it, usually you're going to hear the rattles at a distance and it's saying, hey, you need to give me some space. So bears are the same way. When they do what you're about to see, which is a bluff charge, that's their way of saying, hey, I'm uncomfortable with how close you are. They have their sense of personal space just like we do, and it varies bear to bear. Just like I might be comfortable with someone coming up closer to me, other people are like, okay, you need to stay over here and let me have my personal space. The great thing about this, though, is once you've learned this part about bears, it's something that we can de-escalate. If you can read the situation properly, we can help de-escalate the situation by moving away. This was taken also up in Minnesota. This was done intentionally by a researcher who was wanting to see and to show on video what a bear does when she's being defensive with cubs. So you won't see the cubs in this video, but you will see when a bear does a bluff charge, they pop their jaws, which you will see, and you'll hear a clacking sound. That's going to be their teeth. You'll hear when she's done, you'll hear her teeth popping, or her jaw popping and her teeth clacking. They will sometimes do a ground stop where a ground stomp as they come up to you and they stop, they just stomp the ground. The ears will be a little bit pinned back. All of those are her way of saying, hey, you need to stop, you're too close. And usually they either look at you and then they turn around and go the other way. We'd like people not to get to that bluff charge stage, obviously. So if you live in bear areas, like Phyllis was saying, she lives in a bear area and she didn't know she did. We are seeing bears expand into places they haven't been before, and we'll talk about that at the end as well. But we just need to be more mindful that we have bears in places now where they didn't used to be, and that's because we're having so much more development. Bears are doing really, really well with adapting to that. It's people that are not doing the right things. I mean, bears know how to be quiet and find what they need and keep on moving through, but we're baiting them in basically with our different kinds of food, human provided food sources really. So bear encounter versus bear attack. If you encounter a bear, you do not want to run and play dead. There is a saying, if it's brown, lay down. If it's black, fight back. There's some questions about that, but in reality, what you want to do is, if a black bear comes into contact with you at all, you're fighting back with everything you can. You're kicking, you're screaming, you're poking it in the eye, you're doing whatever you can. And there have been people that have been successful throughout the United States getting away from a black bear. Okay? You want to make yourself look bigger. Hey bear, it's me. I don't want to have anything to do with you. You can go your own way. Talk to it, just so it knows you're no threat to it. If it does make some kind of contact, then you're going to fight back. Something to remember about a bear. It's getting ready to come down up there, isn't it? I'm seeing stuff floating by, I'm like, oh, okay. It's raining. Is it raining? Something to think about, if you're in the woods on a hike, if you see the bear, and a bear like this in the distance, and the bear looks up, it's foraging on acorns or whatever, and the bear looks up and looks at you, and you're stopping and looking at it, if it goes, oh, okay, and goes right back to eating again, you're fine, watch it, and then move on. Give it some more distance. If it picks its head up and is continuing to look at you, and it doesn't go back to doing what it was doing, you're too close. So if a bear changes its behavior because you're there, in this kind of scenario, you're too close and you want to back away and give it some space. I don't know why there's a blank slide there. Human influence. Big issue with bears. So 22 or more than 22 million residents and over 120 million visitors a year. It's a lot of people in one state. So bears go through these stages, and we see a lot of what's called habituation. That's a bear that is used to people, being around people, where bears learn, okay, people or people's human spaces mean food. So if my garage door is left up and a bear comes in and steals birdseed or dog food or gets into a freezer, it learns, okay, I got a really big reward out of this thing. And it will check every single garage door. So now it's learned these types of things provide food sources for me, and it will continue to check. Once it gets a big food reward, it is coming back to check and check again until it doesn't get it anymore. Not a good thing, but it's the next step in a progression. So this is where we have issues. This is where bears are considered or called public safety threats. When a bear is food conditioned and habituated, so it knows it's comfortable around people, it knows people are providing food, and so it becomes, and this is because bears are not frightened away earlier in the process. So this is a bear where someone's putting their garbage out, the bear's not afraid to come right up and watch you as you put your garbage out, so it can come snatch it as soon as you turn and walk away. When bears are approaching people, that's a problem. Okay, but if we follow these, and we'll talk about this a little bit too, but if we see these things happening, if we have a bear in our area and it's getting into, I don't know, it's getting into a garage or something, we need to start making, number one, close the garage door, but number two, make noise when you just see a bear walking through your yard. It's great, I will be honest, I love seeing bears moving through my area, but I'm also the type where I'm gonna see it, I might take a picture of it if I have like 30 seconds, and then I am making all kinds of racket and sound like an idiot, because I don't want it to be comfortable hanging out near where I am. That's a death sentence for a bear. When it becomes too comfortable with people, that's when bears become a public safety threat. And in reality, bears end up being killed, which our biologists hate to do. But bears end up being killed for doing bear things because we haven't done what we needed to do leading up to that point. So we have whistles, we will go out and talk to people about deterrent devices they can put up around their house. There are plenty of things we can do when a bear starts to show up to start to change their behavior and keep them actually more of that wild bear behavior. Yes?
Will using a bear spray help deter the habituation?
A bear spray?
Yeah.
You can use bear spray if one is within like 25 feet or so, 25, 30 feet. But we've had people make the mistake who didn't know better and used it to spray it around the house, and it's got a pepper smell. So eventually the bears will be coming back to you. So yes, you can use bear spray. I've got a sample up here, and I think we have a slide on it that shows it too.
Okay.
But yeah, it is.
But it helps them learn that this is a place
If that's,
they don't
especially if you're out walking or something, yes. If you have a bear that's coming near your home, there are better things to deter that bear than that. Does that explain it better?
Yeah.
So these are just pictures of some human influence. We've got bears in trash. We've got bears with grills. And interestingly enough, we have a lot of folks that like fried turkey for the holidays. And we have an increase in bear calls because people forget to remove the grease and stuff. And bears will come into the screen enclosure or near a screen enclosure to the grill because people haven't kept the grill clean. So that's really important too. Feeding dogs or cats outside, another big issue. If it feeds a cat, it's going to feed anything else, raccoon, bear, anything. And then our bird feeders. Bears can actually get more calories, and we'll cover more about birds. If I don't cover birds specifically, remind me to. Bears can get more than double the calories they need a day from a bird feeder. And the really cool thing in their mind is like it's a buffet, so they can dump it, and then they walk away, and someone comes out, and a lot of times people don't know it was a bear at first. And so they refill it again. And the bear's like, oh, this is really cool, and they dump it again. And by then, it's like, I had somebody that's going through 3 bags of bird seed, and they finally saw a bear. And they couldn't figure out why the bear kept coming back. He was getting that for like 3 and 4 weeks at a time. I'm like, I'd be coming back for that too, if you're just gonna keep filling it up. Yes?
Okay, there's a brand of bird seed, you can get it through Chewy, that's got like a chili to it. And it's supposed to deter squirrels, not the birds. And it works. Will that work with bears or not?
You know, I couldn't say that for sure, but who I personally, off my FWC life, who I personally have talked a lot with, and actually for FWC, but then I used him personally, is Jason at Wild Birds Unlimited.
Okay.
He lives out in Longwood, and he has, actually I was covering this now, you won't have to remind me about it. He has great videos that he's given to us that we've, that we've used before of bears getting into his bird feeders at his home. And it was bears that, for example, I would know because he lives in my area. And then he's like, oh, I know that bear. And then he figured out how to deter them. And he has all kinds of scenarios that if you're going to put up bird feeders in bear areas, that you can put them up safely, take them down during the night, and the bears don't continue to come. And there are some types of seeds that he recommends that you can use that will not bring a bear in.
No, I got it in there. My squirrels are eating it.
So this is a video. This is a picture of our calls. So from 2004 to 2023, you can see how those calls come and go. The court complaints versus non-court complaints, they're just talking about, I saw a bear passing through the neighborhood, or I saw a bear when I was hiking, versus a bear got into my trash, or a bear got into the garage, or into the dumpster or something. So those are the differences there. We'd like to keep the court complaints below 50%, if possible. This slide is always, it's interesting to me to watch because it pretty much stays the same as it gets updated. The numbers change a little bit. So statewide reason for bear calls. So this is also from 2004 to 2023. So a general interaction, those are the I saw a bear. Those are bear sightings. A lot of times, those general interactions are bears in areas that haven't really learned how to get into trouble yet. So then 29%, hey, bears got into my garbage. Bears getting into garbage can cause property damage because they're going through fences, going to places, causing property damage, whether it's a fence, whether it's tearing down, a tree, something like that, trying to get to food. Sick or dead bears, 11%. The bear animal encounters, dogs and bears, like I said, really do not mix. Dogs will get killed by bears, and a lot of times that's because they startle each other, or we have a bear in a yard and people don't know, they let their dog out. The bear takes off, the dog takes off after the bear. The bear turns, the dog's like, oh my gosh, and the dog either gets slapped or bitten around the neck or puncture wounds, or the dog's like, oh my gosh, and starts running back to you, and now we have a bear that's running right towards you because it's chasing your dog. Miscellaneous public safety incidents and illegal activity, you can see they're pretty low. So that's what it looks like. If we could actually get these bears early, and a lot of times you'll hear people say, and I mean this has gone on for years, don't call FWC because they're going to come out and kill the bear. That is not the case. If FWC is setting a trap for a bear, we're very honest with the person who called in the complaint. If we feel the need to set a trap, we're going to tell you, this is not okay, this is not natural bear behavior, and if we trap this bear, it's going to be killed because it could be a threat to another person. Otherwise, we say, hey, this area is working really hard with us, trying to get garbage taken care of, or it's a new area that don't know much about bears yet. We may set a trap and relocate a bear while they're working on their issues. But to just go in and trap and remove every bear,
No.
we're still dealing with the exact same issues. Bears are gonna be coming, as one bear moves out in our bear areas, another one's coming right in to take its place. So we really need to work on the issues that are getting the bear there in the first place, okay? Feeding bears is illegal. That's either intentionally or unintentionally. And people always disagree, but there are plenty of people out there that feed bears on purpose. They like to see them in their backyards, or they're feeding deer, and when the deer come in, the bear are also coming in, and that's considered feeding a bear as well. If you know a bear is getting into the deer food or getting into your garbage and you don't secure it, all of those things are considered feeding a bear. Okay, you can be fined. The Florida Administrative Code, illegal to feed bears whether you mean to do it or not. So if your garbage can gets destroyed consistently, someone can turn you in for that, and you can be fined because you're doing it over and over again knowing that a bear's getting into it. Commercial garbage for dumpsters, if anybody has bears around where they work. You can see here how easy that bear is getting to that plastic lid. Where if you look at the more bear-resistant dumpsters, there are some bear-resistant dumpsters now that the lids are not plastic, but they're almost steel, but they still can flop up, and then they get a bar. And then this one over here shows you they get carabiners to lock it, and then in some of them there's a big metal bar that once you close it, you just put the bar on top and locks it up. I don't know if you can see here, right underneath the carabiner though, how people get into those is those doors slide open. So a lot of the apartment complexes and condo areas will have the slide opens, and if that's left open, a bear will easily get in there. Okay. So residential garbage, secure in a building until the morning of pickup. You can do things to retrofit your cans. That's on our website. There's a strapping system and there's also a hasping system. Really pretty inexpensive to do. Obviously, nothing is bear proof. We call it bear resistant for a reason. But this is a great Band-Aid to at least keep bears, getting out of something, just walking up and grabbing stuff. You could buy a bear resistant can, or you can, like you said, make your can bear resistant. They're also on our website, /bear. You can find all of this information there. So that shows you the hasping systems. Just take a drill, and if it's a sturdy can. A caddy. Some HOAs don't allow those kind of things, but that's also really good. And then bear-resistant containers. And bear-resistant containers are actually, they go through a couple different places now that they can be tested, but they are tested by bears to make sure a bear can't get into it. They'll put all kinds of peanut butter and lots of donuts and stuff in it, smear it all over the place, and see if the bear can break into it. So that's how bears get that, or that's how trash cans get the bear-resistant type.
I saw on Facebook that the bears at the Melbourne Zoo are testers.
So if you or your neighbors have any kind of livestock whatsoever, or bee yards, electric fencing is the way to go. If someone's had, livestock for chickens for a long period of time, it's a matter of time if you're in a bear area before a bear finds it. FWC has we have a PDF that you can pull up, a way to set it, and if you live in areas where we are, FWC can come out and help you get those set up. So we do go with the 3-strand though. Some people, if you're familiar with that, will go with just 2, but you need the third strand so a bear can't dig under it or just go over it. Bird feeders. So there's an exception to every rule, and we laughed about this one. I did a presentation at Wild Birds Unlimited, and people just rolled about this one because they're doing everything they can to try and do the right thing, and every once in a while a bear still defeats it. So you can see what's happening here. This is always one of I just love the series of slides.
Oh my God.
It shows you how determined a bear can be and why we have to be so much smarter than they are.
That's cool.
And if you look at the bottom, there's a circle down there, and that's where they had a previous bird feeder and squirrels kept getting it. So that's a little thing to try and deter squirrels, and then they tried it this way, which in reality should work. I mean, it should work. I would look at that and say, okay, yeah, that's cool. And when the bear fell, ran right back up and did it again. So what is FWC's policy? So FWC policy, if you call and say, hey, I have a bear in my area, I'm not really sure what to do, you will get technical assistance over the phone. Talking to you about what are your trash days, do you leave your trash out, do you have ways to secure that? 10 years ago when I started, we used to say things like just sound your car horn and a bear will just leave. That's not true anymore. It's part of their environment now. So we're flipping that around over the past however many years. FWC Bear Management has flipped it around to where it's personal responsibility. If you live in a bear area, whether you meant to live in a bear area or not, it's your responsibility to do whatever it takes to keep things secure so that we're not pulling bears into your home or around your home. You want to secure attractants, so if something happens and a bear gets something, oops, you left your garage door up. When the bear leaves, close the door and be sure you don't do it again, because once it gets a food reward, it is coming back. Okay, and like I said, if a bear is removed for whatever reason, there are plenty of other bears to move in and take its space. So we really need to stay on top of keeping things secure. Why not trap and relocate? We do trap and relocate, but that's not the perfect plan, because and actually we will not relocate a bear that has been consistently getting into garbage usually. Because if we move that bear someplace else, we're moving it, there is no place to go. I mean, Ocala has people that live in Ocala. So even in the middle of forest, you don't want to take a bear that has learned bad behaviors and drop it in the middle of Ocala. But if it's a bear that's just learning, hey, I can get something good here, we can proactively relocate. 50% will do it again. 70% return or wander, and there's no remote or empty areas left. I know of a bear that was trapped over in the Pine Hills area and was moved in the fall, which is that's not a great area. I mean, bear shouldn't be, like really when you look at a map, a bear shouldn't be there. So we will remove bears if we can from places and areas where there really shouldn't be a bear. We removed that bear, and literally a year to the date, like that week, they called back about a bear. The same bear had come all the way back to the same spot. So they have a great homing technique. Also, we've had bears that have been relocated to Ocala and gets hit by a car and killed trying to come back south. So while yes, relocation does work in some instances, that doesn't fix every problem that we have. So we really need to focus on personal responsibility in those areas. Bear in neighborhood, you hear it, we had Lake Eola bear, you hear it all the time. We've had bears, it's the Kia Center now, it used to be Amway Center, we've had bears through there. They find their way in, they will find their way out. So if it's in a tree, it's either scared or feeding. Sometimes it can be napping. So you want to clear the area, usually bears will come down on their own at night. When it's dark, there aren't people around, they found their way in, they will find their way out. But you never want to chase or corner a bear. That puts them in a position where if they can't get away, they're coming at you because they're trying to defend themselves. So how to scare that bear? Human dominance is really one of the biggest ones. You may not have anything with you, but if you're sitting on your front porch and a bear walks by, you can clap your hands, you can make some noise. Now the bears that are habituated, that are used to people, they may not turn and run, but at least they're getting something negative out of the situation. They're not being taught that, hey, I'm chewing on this bag of garbage, or I'm just laying in this yard, lounging, eating, and people are taking pictures of me and learning that nothing bad happens when a human's around. Okay, we still want to make noise so they're not getting really comfortable like that. Pots and pans, I know when I was growing up on New Year's Eve, everybody went outside with pots and pans. That's a great noise for bears. Motion lights or alarms, and motion sprinklers. So the tall one in the center, that's an air horn on the left. The tall one in the center is called a water scarecrow. It attaches to a garden hose, and if you have an area, a lot of times these are used if there's a pathway by a house and it's just not a really wide, super wide pathway. These are great because you select the arc on it, attach it to a garden hose, and once it's turned on, anything that walks into it gets squirted with water for 30 seconds. Bears don't like to be surprised by things. The next one is called a critter getter. You can also find these online on Amazon. Critter getter or wildlife alert. That one is battery operated, but they have some now that look different and are solar. But for those, they're motion detected as well. So once you turn it on, there's usually a low or a high. This one will make an alarm sound. Again, once the bear or something walks in front of it, it yells at it. So those are great too. Those are nice if bears are coming around a screened enclosure or you back right up to the wood line. That's a good way to deter a bear that continues to come from the same spot right into your yard. Bear spray. Fireworks. If you choose to use fireworks, you would think this is common sense, but you want to make sure you don't throw it past the bear. Because if it goes off behind the bear, you're sending the bear right into you. You know, if you say it, it's happened. Paintball gun. You can use paintball guns. You have to aim at the rump or the hindquarters. And you want to be, you know, a good amount of distance away. You absolutely cannot shoot young bears or cubs. Okay? And bears can be injured with paintball guns if you hit them in the wrong spot. So, I mean, you do need to do your due diligence. And then slingshots, they also work. Okay. So bear spray. It's, you want to keep it easily accessible. Like, I'll keep mine sometimes, like, if I'm in an area, we keep them on our belt loop. If you're hiking, there are plenty of ways now. There's chest straps that are really great if you're a hiker, because you want to keep it someplace where if it happens, you can get to it quickly. And you want to practice with it. You don't want to just have bear spray. Oh, I've got it, and there's a bear, and then fumble with it, because a lot of times you'll end up spraying yourself, just trying to learn how to use it. And I've carried it in my car before and had a friend get in the car and she kicked it when she got in the door and sprayed herself. So there are caddies for your bear spray. And I say that because I've learned that lesson. So you want to keep it in a caddy. If you keep it in a car, don't keep it out in the heat. You aim just below the bear's face or at the feet. Either one of those is fine. Just 2 to 3 second bursts. It comes out as a red cloud. It's just enough because their nose is so sensitive that blocks up their nose, gives you a chance to get yourself out of the situation. Okay? It is more effective than a gun. When people are like, well, I just got a gun, I'm going to shoot it. Well, with adrenaline, that's an issue. You can shoot a bear. Bears don't like to die. They just don't. So if you're shooting it with a gun, the chances of you shooting it in the right spot to kill it, you're either going to send it to a slow, painful death wandering around someplace, or it's going to be irritated. Yes?
Just a point on the bear spray. Although there could be stuff still in the can, you've released most of the pressure. So if you use it once, don't use it again because there's no pressure to project the spray.
And that's from what I understand, that goes by brand.
Yeah.
But that is a good thing to note. And bear spray does go bad after a period of time. So if you're an avid hiker, you do want to check the can and make sure you're going out with, with it still being good. Wind direction is really important. See you in a second. Wind direction is very important. If the wind's blowing at you and you use it, you're in trouble. And that happens. We've had situations where someone called in an orphan cub and the mom, we had a trap set for it. We caught the cub, and then mom was in the wood line, not very happy at all. So we get there, and it was windy. We're like, we're gonna get caught, and spray her so that we can get the cub out. But you do have to watch wind direction so it doesn't come right at you. It is very unpleasant, and for like 30 minutes, you're crying, and you feel like you're on fire. It's really not pleasant at all. Yes?
No, I just wanted to say about the bear spray, that was a major point of conversation and debate during the legislature passing the bear bill. And this has been documented as effectiveness by the United States Forestry Service in Yellowstone that can not only these kinds of bears, but up to including grizzly bears. And they've documented it's got all the documentation to prove it effectively in the field, and even against the grizzly bears in this war.
In fact, the bear spray we carry, it has a picture of a grizzly bear on top. It says counter assault or something. And so yeah, some of the cans do both bears. I love this video. Okay, you can tell I love bears in general, but I really like this video. I've been married for 32 years, and I love the way she comes out. He's like, wait, let me get out of the way, and she's like, ah. So watch. Oh, where did it go? It's gotta go. You gotta hear it. Oh, where's my tech person? No. You want to see this one. And then we just got a few more slides. You guys see it. It's so good. It just shows you how easy it is to scare a bear away.
Good mouthful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. I'm gonna let you just start to play on the touch it.
There we go.
Let me go in your office because he might come after me.
I love that video. Well, and I love it for 2 reasons. I love it because she completely ignores him, which I think is sort of funny anyway. But the fact that it's that easy for her to scare a bear away, if we stay on top of bears moving through our area, and we can appreciate that the bear, I mean, like I said, I love seeing them as much as anybody else, but because I want that bear to be alive in 5 or 10 years, I'm gonna make some kind of racket so it moves. It should be that easy. So if you or your neighbors aren't scaring bears away, really talk that up. And it doesn't mean you're not gonna see bears anymore, but it means because Wekiva River Basin, I haven't said that, is the best bear habitat in the state, bar none. We're always gonna have bears. But if we make noise and get them, instill that natural fear, they have a natural fear of people. If we can instill that back in them while they're just learning that bad behavior, we could eliminate a lot of issues that we have with bears and people. All right, the rest one is just like it says questions. So, did I cover everything? Do you have things you have questions about?